In case you had noticed, I'm crazy about these new sneakers.
They're awesome.
Nice kicks, man.
It's their first outing. Now, in Thailand, this would be tantamount to saying "fuck you." So just understand that it's nothing personal. Pointing the bottom of your foot at someone. Let me not do that.
It's whatever.
I know.
It's San Diego.
But it's like Southeast Asia.
So are we going to see Iron Man and War Machine go head to head?
Well, I got that. That sense from the footage.
Yeah.
But it could be a misdirect, couldn't it?
Can you talk a little bit about the new weapons you can see?
Well, I think what's really going on, if I had to piece together what's going on in that footage, I would say that at a certain point, and probably in Act 1 or 2, Tony is approached by Nick Fury, who's wondering what it's like for him to not have any backup. And Rhodey / Cheadle's thing has always been about, hey, come try to work with us. We see that he's under pressure from the Senate to essentially turn over the weapon that he designed when he was under contract to them. But the truth is he didn't design it for a government contract. He designed it to save his own life. So he has an argument there. The funny thing is, in saying what I'm saying right now, I'm going right back to our original vetting sessions 6 months ago when we were not just reminding ourselves of the obvious, but trying to think, if this were really happening, what would it be the most interesting, entertaining, and honest way to move forward? And that's kind of what we took the risk of exploring, is basically Tony goes on a much more perilous journey this time than he did when all he had to do was save his own ass.
I mean, I got a chance to visit the set. I got to see you guys sort of working in action and get this tight-knit group.
Yeah.
It really is incredible to watch. How did you guys welcome them as the new team? How did that sort of work? Amazing.
Well, speaking of tight-knit groups, I mean, then there's just kind of a certain brother and sisterhood of talent in what's otherwise kind of a small town. So everybody knows Don. Everyone's seen incredible work he's been doing over the years. And I just have this problem where I tend to go up to people if they come join a project partially due to the fact that they figured that part of what made it work last time was my direct or indirect involvement. I feel really beholden to say to them, I guarantee you and I promise you, we will work our asses off to really pay this character off and to give you what you would expect for coming to join us. And I guess the problem or the challenge this time was I was essentially saying that to, 3 or 4 new people. John and I were telling Mickey that we wouldn't just let him play a two-dimensional nemesis. We were thrilled to get Scarlett, and we said, you're not just going to be some kind of Marvel spin-off story thing, because we want, a hot chick kicking ass in this movie. And I think we managed that, but and with Sam, he's just such a gifted guy that to come in, obviously, it's no secret now that he's essentially filling the space that Tony's evacuated when he says he's not going to make weapons anymore. So what is it like to be, quote unquote, a, wannabe Tony Stark, and how does that add up to what his conflict is and all that stuff? But the real one was with Dawn of saying, well, if we're saying the whole no man is an island thing, and it's always the toughest part is the guy who's like, Tony, you really need to not go it alone. But I think underneath it all too, and it was always, I always got from the comic books that if Tony and Rhodey were hanging out, it would be a toss-up which one of them would get laid first. and I think, that in Dawn with his wit, or even we were just standing outside, screwing around a little bit, just entertaining ourselves at each other's expense. He's someone who I feel we have a real repartee and ease, and he's not intimidated by me really in any way. So that was I wanted to bring that to the screen as much as possible while still having him have his own arc and trajectory and all that.
You said you had to talk to Mickey about taking the role. Did you guys have to convince him really to come on board? Or?
It's not really. The thing is that Iron Man sold itself here 2 years ago, and then contrary to numbers crunchers, it wound up then being a rousing success, economically. So it was kind of a win-win situation. If I had never been involved in it and my agent was pitching, they're doing another Iron Man and here are the opportunities. But I think the convincing, or rather the conversations really center more around, it's not uncommon to be sold a bill of goods, and for one reason or another, usually not lack of intention, it doesn't pay off. And I've been in that position dozens of times. So I think John and I and Kevin and the Marvel folks and pretty much everybody who was there last time, we knew that as a creative coalition, we really tended to be able to make good on what we hoped we could provide.
It sounds like you have...
We have time for one last question, guys.
Oh, you seem to feel, or it sounds like you have a real responsibility with the character and the franchise at this point, almost a kind of an ownership of it. Or do you reconcile with the fact that it's also this cog in this giant Marvel machine, and there's this whole other aspect?
I do, but rarely. I tend to just think of it as something that is this really kind of unspoiled arena of activity in a very heartless, wonderful, treacherous industry.
Mr. Downey, is Tony's health in trouble? I noticed there was an infection spidering across his chest.
You might be onto something.
Yes. One of the things that always perplexes superhero movies is, you spend a lot of the first movie introducing the character, why he's there, what he does, who he is. Mm-hmm. Now you're on the second one. How are you liberated from that? And what could you and John do with this movie that you wanted to do with the first one, but you just didn't have time or space?
Well, I'll end with this. It's 6 and 1/2 a dozen the other. Usually the origin story is the most interesting story because you get to see someone becoming who we love them once they are. And so again, we just up the stakes. He has to be dealing with things that are more pertinent than his immediate survival, and he has to be exposed to things that are beyond the realm of easy understanding, even for someone as bright as he is. So, and those were all there, so we didn't have to reach or create anything. It's kind of like, you can't tell a story any better than the way it really happened. So we just started looking back in the stories and then kind of did an amalgam of those, and we didn't take ourselves seriously at all, but we took the storytelling really, really, really seriously. I'm going to press on. I'm going to tell you I love you.
Thank you.
Ron, really nerdy pitch. There was an episode of Star Trek where they inferred that Mr. Spock was descended from Sherlock Holmes. Could possibly Tony Stark find such lineage in a future film to tie your franchises together?
Then that could be a third franchise. And I guarantee you that would be one that nobody would want to see.
Thank you.